Patrick is with us in Tucson, Arizona. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Hey, so I just had a quick question here. I was going through some of your older Dave rants on YouTube and heard one about gold. And I agree with you that mutual funds are definitely a better investment in the long term than gold. I also agree that people would not be trading gold bars for blue jeans or whatever in the event of a major economic collapse. But where I would kind of challenge a bit is, as far as gold goes, I would look at it more as like an insurance policy to kind of preserve the wealth in the event of some sort of major economic situation. If you had some of your wealth in gold, then presumably if there was some sort of collapse of a currency and a new currency were to come up, that wealth would maintain its value at least somewhat through the transition. And then when you out at the other side, you'd still have, you wouldn't have lost everything, right?
hmm The problem is that since the Roman Empire, you can't find an example of that happening.
Of people using gold to preserve
To
their wealth.
survive an economic collapse and it hold its value and they come back and turn a corner on a currency. It never has happened.
Well, I mean, if we look at, I know in your previous rant on gold, you had mentioned the Confederacy, right? And if at that time people did use gold as currency, and anybody who had gold as currency, and if they kept that instead of transitioning to the Confederate money, then once that Confederate dollars collapsed, they'd still have that value in the gold. Same thing with the economic collapse in Germany in the 1920s, and so on.
Well, I mean, you can convert to assets of all kinds of things in the event of an economic collapse that will ride it out. That I think the thing you've got to think about here is where can you find what you're talking about actually being used by wealthy people that have built wealth to cause them to hold on to wealth and to grow wealth. You just can't find it, Patrick. And you're spending too much time on the internet.
Yeah, Patrick, what are you worried is going to happen?
I mean, I'm somewhat of a prepper myself, so I'm not worried, so to speak, that everything is going to collapse tomorrow. But I think when you look at a long enough time frame
for your theory to work in your lifetime, the U.S. dollar would have to completely have had no value like Confederate money did, or like Iranian money did under Saddam Hussein. You would have to have the U.S. dollar, the largest economy in the history of the world, become worth nothing for your theory to work. And I'm sorry, I'm not buying it.
So would there be something else that you would say is a better thing to look at to protect yourself from a financial
I'm not
catastrophe?
planning for the apocalypse. I don't do financial planning for the apocalypse. I don't have anything for the apocalypse. The best thing I've got for apocalypse is several thousand rounds. But so I'll be eating. But other than that, I'm not planning for the apocalypse. I'm not doing financial planning for the apocalypse. I'm not predicting the end of time, and I'm not going to predict my life as if everything as we know it in America today becomes valueless. I'm not going to set my mind on that track. I'm not going to set my friends on that track. And I'm not going to set you on that track. If you want to get on that track, Patrick, you can find a way to rationalize all that negativity if you want. But I just don't believe it. And I think it leads you to ridiculous places to put money. And so I buy real estate and I buy mutual funds. So, you don't have to agree with me. You get you a show and you talk about gold. That'll be great. But I'm not doing it. I'm not going to suggest you do it.
Right. Well, and one of the best ways to prepare for financial collapse, if you're thinking that might be a thing, is to walk through the baby steps and actually become wealthy.
His point is all that wealth would disappear.
Right. But here's the thing. I have talked to preppers before who are still in debt. that's a problem. Like that is actually
Well, that's believing more in the collapse than it is in the non-collapse.
right.
Because in the non-collapse, you would want to get rid of the debt. But in a collapse, the debt would be a great thing because you never paid it back.
Oof. I
And
don't know
you're
if that's a
counting
great
on the
financial
end of
plan.
time. I mean, this is like, it's a theological doctrinal problem as well as just a philosophy of life. And so, I'm not a prepper. Not mad at you if you're a prepper, but I'm not a prepper. I'm not predicting the end of life as we know it while I'm alive. And so I'm not going to say that the U.S. dollar is going to become worth absolutely the same thing as the Iranian dollar with Saddam Hussein's face on it, which is absolutely paper money or monopoly money or Confederate money or any other collapsed economy in former currencies. You would have, for this idea to work, you would have to assume the U.S. dollar is going to do that. And I just think that that's an asinine set of assumptions. I mean, it's just there's nothing that indicates that.
But even if you are a prepper, get out of debt. Start there. Like if you're really trying to be prepared for some financial collapse, like financial collapse probably wouldn't happen overnight anyways. It could drag out for 10 or 20 years. So it's like, even if you think that's going to happen, get out of debt, pay off your house, build wealth. That'll help you be prepared for anything.
I own real estate, a lot of it. And so, but guess what? In a financial collapse, a communist regime comes in, takes over all private property, potentially. So that could be taken away. Oh, by the way, they could come take your gold bars too, because they just decided to. They come take your farm, they shoot people, and take their stuff. This is how Russia was formed. Hello. I mean, the Bolsheviks, the gulags. I mean, they went and killed the farmers and took their farms. That's what communism does. So how do you protect? Gold bars aren't going to protect you from that. And neither's debt free and nothing, so I'm just not going to financial plan for the apocalypse. I'm not going to do it. If you want to, you can, but that's you can do a lot of stupid stuff if you want to, but it's loud out there, but it's not what we're going to teach you to do.
Well, and it's living in that world of fear. Like it's living in that space of everything is bad, the world is going bad. And it's like when you're in that space of fear.
No, I will tell you one thing. He did get me on one thing that he's exactly right on. That if you took your Confederate money and you converted it to gold bars before the Confederacy collapsed, the gold was worth something after that and the Confederate money wasn't. And he's right. I was wrong about that. So it did cause you to survive the collapsed economy because you could have took the gold and sold it for northern dollars, right? Called U.S. dollars now. And, you would have converted your wealth and not lost your wealth. So he is actually right about that. But for him to be right, though, to do this, you would have to assume the collapse of the dollar, like the Confederate dollar became worth nothing. And I just not going to set my life up on that hinge. If you want to, it's okay. I'm really not mad at you. I just think you're wrong. And you think I'm wrong. So there you go. So go do what you want to do. That's how it works. That's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. If the U.S. dollar collapses, I'm wrong.